Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
It's already 10 o'clock. Let's wait for a couple of minutes. We have 17 participants now. Share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's visible.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right. So let's
Yeah,
get
yes, Venkatesh.
let's get started. Um, so we have around 17 or 18 participants, expecting more because of the Father's Day. You know, maybe everybody's not able to join, but it's okay. I'm just recording that and put that into the Google Classroom. And so let's start the class. This course is about more on learning a little bit more on the AWS services and preparing for a solution architect, associate certification. So this is kind of a little bit more than what the cloud practitioner certificate was about, but you don't need to complete the cloud practitioner to start this course. I have certain places where I give some watch some videos to get understanding the whole AWS services. But I will go through that. This will be a 6 weeks course. Just wanted to give an idea. So the housekeeping, the first thing is, make sure that you enrolled in the Google Classroom. And Google Classroom is where all these materials are being posted. All the classes will be remote using Zoom, and will be recorded and uploaded into Google Classroom. And if you haven't joined the Google Classroom, please do so. In the email, I have a Google Classroom code, so you can add it to your classroom. So you can do that. And I will be posting some homework. Basically, the homework is there are question answers. You just try practice it on a daily basis to by heart those. Try to get a feel of the exams. I'll be posting as many questions I have and in that classroom. There are some in the PowerPoint. Let me go to the PowerPoint. If you go into the cloud, what is cloud computing? and what is AWS. There are some 3 videos I shared it. It's all YouTube videos. If you don't have understanding about cloud, just go through that. And our class, we are going in a high speed, so that we want to complete that in 6 weeks. So try to watch those videos to understand what cloud is all about, and then we can just dive directly into the to this class, for the solution architect exam class. So we will go into more into the solution architect course. So everybody is set. So hopefully everybody has Google Classroom access, and try to join using laptop rather than using phones. It's going to be more, the classroom experience will be better. So what is a solution architect? What is their primary duty? What they do exactly. So what they do is that they deploy applications to infrastructure in AWS cloud. And basically what they do is, when you're building a house, you need an architect. How you have all the resources available, how you can design a house which is exactly you need it, and then and also making sure that the cost is optimum. So AWS is also the same. Like, they give so many services out of the box, and then if you only need 5 services, you don't need to uh, you don't need to provision all the other services. And then, because it's going to cost you, and then the AWS is going to think that you are using the service, and then they are going to charge you. So a solution architect is very important. So when a company is moving into cloud, that solution architect is going to look at what all services you are going to use it. And basically networking, security, cloud computing, storage, all those things included, how you can optimize your, how you can make use of the service, as well as optimize your cost. So solution architect plays a big role, and he should know all the services. That's what we are kind of learning. And then I just wanted to give you a heads up for an AWS solution architect. For a beginner, the starting salary is 70 to 120K, but this can go up to 140, 150K, depending on which company you're working for. So it's a great opportunity. Once you learn this, you can make a career out of it. So just wanted to encourage to see that how you can make up your career. And it's very interesting, not just sitting and coding, but there is a lot of things behind the scene. There's a lot of strategy you can use it. A lot of different opportunities to work on different services, not just sitting there and coding in Python or C# or any other language. You can do much bigger job than that. How can you become a solution architect? So just you have to certify this exam, the AWS Solution Architect Associate exam. There is a score between 100 to 1,000. The maximum score you can have is 1,000. But in order to pass, you need a 720 minimum passing mark. And then the fees is $150 for taking the exam. And these exams are a little bit tougher, so you may not pass in one go. So maybe you need 1 or 2 attempts, but don't give up. The more you try, the more confident you are. And you can also take practice exams, which is $20. But I will be giving so many practice exams for you to prepare. Right. So the course introduction, what all kinds of questions you are getting? So one is a scenario based. They will give a real world problem, and then but those are if you know all the terms, we are going to learn all the terms like what is EC2, what is lambda, all those words you understand what it belongs to, and you will be able to pass to clear those questions. So those are real world scenarios, but that may take more time for you to answer because you need to understand the problem. And then but the more and more you try, and then you will be able to answer those questions. And there are two different type of questions: multiple choices, 1 out of 3 incorrect response, and then multiple choices, 2 out of 5 response options. I think that the last one is a little bit harder, because you'll have to select 2 out of 5 responses. But you know, once you do a lot of practice, I am pretty sure you can pass this exam, at least in 2 tries. But I'm sure that once you have a good preparation, you can pass in the first go itself. So the exams are divided into 4 sessions. First one is a resilient architecture, design resilient architecture. This whole certification is about architecture. So how you design a resilient, architecture in AWS cloud, and how do you design a high performing architecture, and how you secure the architecture, and how do you put the security around it, and then how optimize the cost. So these are the percentage. Let's say if you are able uh, to be 100% study for the cost optimization, you can get 20%. It's those are math kind of questions, and so you can easily get that questions right. And the hardest part is the third one, the secure architecture. There may be a lot of things in there. So we will practice, and it's not, and I just don't want it uh, to make you fearful of that. But, these are the percentage. But if you have a strategy, you can just, prepare as much you can and get questions, answer the questions from that domain. So basically, just wanted to give you high level what a resilient architecture is. Means resiliency means you have to implement a system where it can recover the failure. So when you're building a house, what you do if there is a rain or hurricane, the house should be able to withstand. How it can recover from the if something happen, how it can recover from the failure. So those are the resilient architecture is all about. It should be able to recover from failures, and fault tolerance. All those things are words are related to resilient architecture. And it should be highly available in the cloud. It should be available 24/7. But if you have something, it's like a water supply. You are getting water from to your home, you expect that to be working 24/7, right? Like the same thing with electricity. But sometimes there will be issues, but it will be resolved within a couple of minutes, or sometimes it may take half an hour. But in the cloud side, if one server is down, on one service is down, the other service will be able to pick it up. So that kind of fault tolerance we should be designing. And decoupling mechanism is making sure that each one is a separate service. Make sure that each of these services are independently working, and not like, oh, one service is depending on the other service. Not that scenario. So making sure each service is independently able to do what's supposed to do. And then the storage is like, if sometimes if you have your own laptop, Sometimes your hard disk is full. What are you going to do? So you need to buy another external hard disk. But in cloud, you should be able to scale the storage in such a way that the more information comes in, it should be able to get the, it should be able to store it, and then it should be able to scale it, and it should be resilient. And if one, if we are keeping a data in the cloud, if something happened to that particular hardware, and that should be available for the user. And how does it happen? How do you design an architecture for that, like where if one fail, the other service is going to take care of it. So those are the kind of resilient architecture we are talking about in cloud. The high performing architecture is basically, it should be able to scale it based on the workload. It should be able to scale it. Maybe today we have 50% workload, but if there is a Thanksgiving comes and the workload is higher for the web server, it should be able to scale it without you or someone going it manually. So you have to design in such a way that, as and when you're getting more load, how it scales to it spins up more servers, and how we get the computing power. That is all the responsibility of a solution architect to design that architecture, because AWS is giving all those services. You are supposed to build on top of it. It's like a Lego. With Legos, you're building building different structures, right? Like that, you're kind of designing a scalable architecture where it should be able to scale it or scale down, and which will affect the cost. Also, the storage scalability, the network solutions, and then high performing database solutions. So everything in one place. You have all these services are available in the cloud. And security is very important at this time. Like, a lot of hacking, and your data is secured. If the other competitor gets your data, your business will shut down. So making sure that how you secure your whole, basically you are kind of renting an apartment, but you secure an apartment. Like, no outsider can and come in and do anything, right? Because since this is a renter house, even though you don't own it, uh, but you need to have some security in place for protecting yourself. So that's the idea. And then cost optimization, like, how optimize you can the cost, because cost can go very high if you don't know which services you are using it. Like, there are some storage services are very expensive, and some are very cheaper. So basically, after 10 years of data, we want to archive into a cheaper service, the storage service. So a lot of things you should think through it. So that is an important job of an architect. So again, I just wanted to give you a tip. Like, the pass mark is 720, 65 questions, and you have 130 minutes to complete the exam. And some tips are: don't spend too much time on hard questions at first, and flag them and review later. That is what you should be doing, and we will practice this before the exam. And mainly watch for this keyboard indicators in certain scenarios. You train your brain in such a way that you should be able to pick up some of the keyword indicator, and quickly you can eliminate some of the answers. Also, towards the end of the course, we should go through a well-architected framework, which AWS is given, and this is the best way to it's like a template for you to read through. And if you don't know anything about AWS solution architecture, you can follow through. Basically, you're buying a table from Walmart or any other store. but you have a documentation how you can put together. So basically it's like that. So they will give you some standards, how to start architecting a solution. So towards the end of the course, we will go through it, because there's a lot of terms you won't be able to understand now. All right. So so that's about the course. And do you have any question? I'm going moving towards the fundamentals. Do you have any questions?
So the question from one of the slide,
Yeah.
you said practice exam cost is $20, right? So is
Yeah.
it from the AWS or is it like
That is from the AWS. There, when you
AWS?
register for the class, you can register for an exam for 150 and $20 if you want to do, if you want to get a feel of how you're doing the test directly with AWS. So you can have a $20 cost for that. But you may not have to take it, because I'm going to provide a lot of questions. But it's a good idea to get a feel of it.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So everybody understood the role of a solution architect and how important it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just a scenario, like if you are building your home, you have to go and go to an architect and then design the house, and then you start building. You won't build the house starting from scratch and I know everything, I can just start building the house, but you don't know where you are going, right? So the cost, security, everything is important. So all right, so I'm moving to the next slide. Okay, I'm going to the fundamentals. All right, so starting with fundamentals. So I'm just talking about the solution architecture, how you can, how can you become a solution architect? So an architecture for building a house or a building, then you need to go through the civil engineering course, right? Just like that, if you learn AWS solution architect and then you pass the exam, the associate level exam, that's good enough. That's a good starting point. And that's what we are preparing for. And especially young people, when they apply, and these kind of certifications are going to stand out. Like if they may be interviewing hundreds of students or applicants, and getting an AWS solution architect associate level, it's not easy. And especially people who are experienced people are having hard time passing the exam than a college going or a youth, because they've been in that study mode for long, so they know how to take the SAT exam and all these different, so they know a very good way of preparation for the exam and then execute. Or so that's why I'm encouraging you to, like, at this young age, they can just pass the exam than an experienced AWS experienced person. So you guys know how to answer the questions than an experienced person, because your brain is fresh and you know the concept, and you don't have a lot of outliers you're thinking about, so it's easy for you to pass the exam. And the advantage of passing the exam is when you're going for an application or interview, and this is going to stand out, and how much practice and you need it for passing the exam, and knowledge base. So first of all, the fundamentals, we are diving into the course. So I'm just talking about AWS fundamentals. AWS is Amazon Web Services. So they are giving everything as a service. In olden days, if you have to set up an in IT department, you have to secure a lot of servers. You need a lot of networkings, and then you need a lot of you know you have to install the operating system. A lot of things you need to do it yourself. Those are called on-prem system, on premises. So now we are getting everything on the cloud because they take care of everything in the cloud. All we need to do is I need this service and that service, like that. So you don't need to build everything in your on premise, means on your office or a building. Everything is coming as a service, and you are consuming that through internet, because internet is everywhere now. So some of the terms we are going to learn is, what is a global infrastructure for AWS? AWS has a global infrastructure in place because all these things they have um, provided as kind of data centers. If you are driving through Ashburn, you will see big data centers. So basically, all those servers are kept it, but they are giving us as a service so that you can just go and avail the service, and that's what it is. So we need to understand some of the questions comes from the global infrastructure. It's pretty easy. You can pass the exam. Some of the questions you can get that answer. And then we talk about what are availability zones, what are data centers, what are regions, what are edge locations, and what is an AWS management console. So those are key terms. You can just put it in your mind. So, and I'm just going to explain it in detail. So if you go to AWS site, and there is a link, I put it so you can see that. Right now we have 31 launch regions. So region is nothing but Northern Virginia is a region. And then in that region, you have multiple availability zone. So each availability zone is like a data center. So it's all connected. So we have around 31 launched regions, and more regions are still, coming, adding into AWS. And then around 99 availability zones, and then around 450 plus 400 plus edge zones. So I'll explain it what those things are. So in a global map, you will see what all regions are where. Let me go into that. You can look at the map in AWS. So this is the global infrastructure URL. So let me show you how this is going to. So this is what it is available. You can go through this and understand the whole, what a region is, what is an availability zone. So you look at these different countries, having all these are all regions. Each region have multiple uh, availability zones. So you can see there are 2 in India, and there are multiple. There's more in US. The nearer here is Northern Virginia is another. See, Northern Virginia, and then there is another one, US East, Canada. And then each region, you can see, okay, Northern Virginia, how many availability zones are available. Looking at that, there are 6 availability zones. And then there's something called local zones, and then wavelength zones. So they are having different data centers, and then they have their own redundancy in networking. Power supply is very important. So if there is a disruption in power supply, they get the a redundancy in power supply is available. So they cannot be down even a second. So So if you look at this and you can see what all the, so let me go to Northern Virginia, and then you can see what all the, availability zones are available. And in Africa, there is only one, which is in Cape Town, which is South Africa. There is one in Brazil, and there's a lot in European countries. Yeah. Local zones, and then there are 29 wavelength zones. Just go through what a local zone, and what is the difference between local zone and availability zones. So availability zone is basically you have a data center, and these are all the pillars based on that. They have the security and availability and performance. So the availability zone, if something happened to one data center, the other data center will pick it up. So that is the different availability zone. So that's kind of a disaster recovery. If something goes down, the business should not be affected. So going back to what is an availability zone? A region has multiple availability zones, more than one. And availability zone is a data center. And our data center is basically a building, a huge building filled with servers, like hundreds and thousands of servers in that data center. So it has robotics, like one server is down, the other server replaced it in seconds. So all those things are built into the data center. And one availability zone may have more than one data center. So one availability center themselves have multiple data centers, and they are close to each other. So let's say if you have 3 data center in one availability zone, they're all separated by 60 miles apart. Like, it's not geographically nearer places. Regions are geographical area that contains more than one data availability zones. We already saw Northern Virginia has 6 availability zones. We already saw that, right? So region is a geographical area. It's just the area, but you have more um, uh, availability zone, and each availability zone has multiple data center. So then there is something called edge location. So edge locations are, it's called endpoints. We will learn more about what an endpoint is of AWS that are used for caching content. So some of this information is, available. All the information is available in, let's say, in our data center in Northern Virginia. But somebody in Singapore want to get that information, they have to come from the internet. They have to hope through all the different networks to get to Northern Virginia data center and get the data information and then deliver it there, right? So, and that should be quick. And one of the best way AWS did is these informations are cached and kept in different edge locations. So let's say if I am accessing my cloud application, I don't need to, I need to get that information quickly. And what is the best way to get it is by caching the content near to your area. So that is what is called edge location. So AWS is using CloudFriend. That is our Amazon's content delivery network. So it knows, it knows it will cache the information from one cloud location and available in all other places. So somebody from Singapore is going into a e-commerce site, which is hosted in AWS, and somebody from Africa, and somebody from India, somebody from US, they all should get the same kind of performance. So that is why these contents are caching. So they are called, they are cached into something called edge location. So edge location is also like a lot of servers where it caches those information in the memory so that it will get the information pretty quickly. So in the global infrastructure level, we learn about a couple of things. One, regions, availability zones, data centers, and edge locations. So one region can have multiple availability zone, and each availability zone can have multiple data centers. And edge location is totally separate. Edge location is something where the information or content means it can be a data, it can be HTML or PDF or CSV file or any other data like database data which is there, and images, videos, all those things are cached in multiple places. It's a copy of the same information in multiple places. So that the nearest wherever you're accessing it, it just gets from that location. And AWS is using, what is the service it's using it? It's called CloudFriend. So CDN means Content Delivery Network. So just keep these words, Okay. So now getting into service types. So Amazon, AWS is giving so many services, so many, like hundreds and, more than hundreds and services. So it keeps adding new services, but they just grouped into called service types. So IoT has so many services, but they grouped under IoT. And then mobile services, right? Then there's a lot of services underneath. And then streaming services, you have so many services under that group. Databases is it's a group, but there's a lot of other databases service available. So these are all the service types Amazon is providing under AWS global infrastructure level. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 27 different service types you can see. But for our exam purpose, we only deal with 11 services. So we'll be we don't, for this exam we don't study the other service types are not coming into the exam, but this is our concentration, like analytics, management and governance, migration, transfer, compute, storage, databases, all those things are our for coming for our exam. So again, for the tips, a region is a physical location in the world that consists of 2 or more availability zones. And an availability zone is 1 or more discrete data centers, and each of with redundant power, networking, and connectivity housed in separate facilities. So that is, those words are very strong. Redundant power supply, redundant networking, and redundant connectivity. If something lost, and the other things should be able to automatically switch over, right? That is the redundancy is all about. So there are some quiz questions. I'm going to quote this particular slide. And edge location, about the edge locations are using the content caching, and Amazon's CDN is called CloudFront. That's the, just keeping in mind. So the next thing is, who owns what in the cloud? So basically, when you're kind of renting a car, you're not owning the car. So what is your responsibility? What is the car company's responsibility? The same model applies to cloud scenario also. But I'm just going to give an example, and then we go through it. And it's very important to understand that, like, what is your responsibility, what is Amazon's responsibility, and how we want to do a sharing model between these two. And then we'll go through the exam tips. Any questions so far? You can unmute and ask questions. Okay, I'll continue then. So when you're renting a car, who is responsible for what? Give an example. You are renting a car and the rental company is the other entity, right? And in the cloud, you are the consumer, and then AWS is the cloud provider, right? So if you're renting a car, what is your responsibility? You should make sure that there should not be any damage to the car. So before you're taking the car out, they take pictures, what were they done before, and, making sure that, they secure. But and your responsibility is you should not damage the car, right? And then not to speed the car. So, those some responsibilities you have. And then the tolls, you will be paying the tolls, you will be putting the gas if the gas tank is empty. It's all your responsibility. So the rental company's responsibility is making sure the car is running, the tire pressure is good, the fuel tank, the first they give it to you, they have enough gas in the fuel tank. And then all the mechanics, like something goes wrong, the car is not in a drivable condition, and that is not your responsibility. It's before they give it to you. So same thing applied to AWS. It's called shared responsibility. Just put this in your mind, these words, shared responsibility. So that model, AWS is responsible for the software. They are giving an AWS console where you can log in, and you should be able to access the storage. You should be able to create a new virtual machine, and you should be able to use a database. You should be able to configure a network, um, and 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 those things are provided by AWS. It's like a car they're giving, though the everything is there in that. The car has a steering, a seat, brake, pedal, everything is there, right? Like that. And in AWS term, is like, everything is housed in regions or availability zones or edge locations. These servers are here, and we don't even know when you're accessing the AWS service. We don't need to know where our infrastructure is, like, which region I'm. At least which region you are get connecting to, but we don't know which server is running on what. So all those things are taken care by the infrastructure side. The AWS is taking care of it, like what is the memory and all those things. But your responsibility is, you tell what kind of machine you want, what operating system you want it, but you can build on top of it. But the customer responsibility is more about your data. So your data, AWS doesn't know anything about your data. So your data is your responsibility. And the platform they are using it, and the security they are setting up. And AWS will not even say, if you don't, it's like renting a house. And once you rent the house, you give this key to somebody else, and he comes and stole your furniture from your rent building. Rental company is not responsible, because it is your responsibility to keep your apartment secure. So so now your responsibility is about securing the data, the infrastructure, everything. That is your responsibility. Then the client-side data encryption, server-side encryption, all those things are your responsibility, because you're setting up the encryption so that the data will not get compromised. Network traffic protection, so that you won't get hacked by some other bad actors. So that's a shared responsibility. You can relate to a rental car company in a real world. So some of the tips in the exams, can you do this yourself in AWS Management Console? So Management Console is nothing but, let's say you're ordering something from Amazon, or you are ordering something from a Walmart or any other online services. once you create first thing, you need to create an account, and then you log in, and you will see all the stuffs are, like, for example, Amazon, you will see what all things are on sale. So imagine the cloud is also similar to that. Like, when you create an account in AWS, they give something, just like Amazon.com, the AWS gives you something called a management console. So once you log in, you will see all the services. I'm going to show how a management console is going to look like. So that is a gateway to, once you log in, you will be able to see all the services available. And there are things you can configure it once you log in. If you are able to configure that from the management console, that means it is your responsibility. If you are not able to do some of the things, that means it is AWS responsibility, where, for example, manage the data center or security cameras, cabling, patching, RDS, operating systems, some of the operating systems. All those things you cannot do through console, AWS management console. That means that is AWS responsibility. That is the rule, basic rule. But encryption is a shared responsibility that you will have to work with AWS. So there are three things. What is a management console is basically the AWS web services login. Once you log in, you get a website where you will be able to manage all the services. Once you log into management console, then you will be able to see what all things you can do. You can create groups, users, creating new users, patching, EC2. EC2 is like totally new for you, but down the line we will be learning what an EC2 and things like that. So a lot of things you can do from logging into management console, means that is your responsibility. For example, going to Amazon.com, you will see a lot of items that you can add to the cart and you can check out. That is your responsibility, right? But you don't know, when Amazon is giving you a product, that you cannot put that product out there so that other people can buy it. So that is a responsibility of Amazon, where they have other vendors who is publishing items there or products in the Amazon, so that you can buy it. So it is their responsibility. So encryption is basically, for example, paying for the order, check out the order. Those are kind of responsibility of yours. And then once it is paid, then tracking the delivery, that is your responsibility. But Amazon is also give you a way to track it. So same way, just imagine cloud is also similar way, just giving a high level. Okay, now we are down into couple of services. The main thing is a compute service, storage service, databases service, and networking service. Those are the four things we are going to learn very much in detail. Okay, so I want to show you what a management console is going to look like. So this is a management console. Hopefully you can see my screen. So this is a management console. So first you need to log in. So let me show you how, first thing, how you will be able to log in and what all things it's going to ask. aws.amazon.com, and that is our console, Amazon console. And sign into console, and it's going to ask you a couple of things. If you're a root user, this is a not a right example. This is an IAM user, but I wanted to show you, once you log in, this is going to show like this, right? Once you log in, once you log into with the username and password, and you will see these are the regions available. So remember that we learned about what a region is. So you should be able to pick which region you are working with. So where all your infrastructure or cloud has been deployed here, right? And it will show you who the person is logged in, and there will be an account number, and one account having multiple user. So let's say if I create an account, and then I can have multiple user access to the site, because that's how it is, right? For one company, I have 100 users. You can just having account created for each user, but it's all going to one account, because they are going to bill against this account. Even though there are 100 people working on it, all the bills are coming to us. So the model for cloud is pay as you go. Like you keep whatever services you use, it you pay for the service. Just like your water, how much water you consume, you pay for that water bill, just like electricity. So cloud is also the same. And then once you log into Amazon AWS console, you will be able to see all the services. So let me show you all the services here. Right here, view all services, and you will see all those services here. So compute services, container services. I'll be giving some labs with containers, so we will do it together, but in later classes. Storage services, where you keep the data. You use USB drive to store files, just like that, like Google Drive. And there are storage available from the cloud. There are different services available, and there are different database services available. um, Migration, transfer, networking, machine learning, media services, quantum management, and governance, security. All this, see that how many services are available. And then you can go into each service, and then you can, once you go into the service, all the things you can do from that services are available here. Like I am in S3 services, like storage service, and I have a lot of things you can do. So see, all the menu has changed, right, for that particular service. So let's say if I am using EC2, it's a service. There's a lot of things with EC2 service you can do that will change, right? So each service you go in, and you will see all the services or what all things you can do with that service. So this is called an Amazon console. You log in. So let me go back to so you understood what an Amazon management console is, where you log in, and you can have multiple user for an account, right? And then I just talk about compute, storage, databases, and networking. So I showed you this is one of the compute service, and then there are some networking services. Networking service you saw, and so networking services, storage services, the database services, storage. So that's what we are going to concentrate on the next one or two classes. There's a lot of questions coming from that. Okay, so compute services, we have a couple, like 10 more minutes, we'll wrap up. I know more than 1 hour is going to be hard for you, the first class. The compute services, basically computing. You need a computing service to do the computation. Like all you do is computation, right? You're manipulating data, you are searching data, you are storing the data, and all those things need computing services. So some of the computing services we just look at is, for example of computing services are EC2. EC2 is basically a virtual machine, just like your laptop, and you can create a virtual machine, where through your browser you will be able to log into that virtual machine, and then open the virtual machine, do all the things you needed. So those are called EC2 services, where you can create virtual machines, not not like a, physical hardware, like, virtual machines. Everything is hosted on the Amazon side in hardwares, but for you, these are all virtual machines. So each machines have a name, and then it has its own properties where you can install services or applications inside, everything in the cloud. So this is an example of a computing services. Lambda is another computing services where you can create program without even, it is called serverless computing. So what it does is, in order to have, some computing, you need a laptop or you need a server to do it. So here, and you need to host that program into that machine, and then so you need to do a lot of infrastructure work before even you're deploying a program. So Lambda is something AWS is giving it. You don't even worry about what server you're hosting. You don't need to worry about anything. You just use the Lambda service. You can create programs in the Lambda without even configuring uh, the the server or anything. So Lambda services are they are called serverless computing. So we will see a lot more about Lambda, and we will have some exercise with Lambda. And the next one is Elastic Beanstalk. It is kind of like a provisioning engine. So we will be learning more about it, but I just want to give you an example of a computing service. And storage services, my Amazon's, you will be hearing this more and more. S3 simple storage services, S3 bucket, they call it as bucket. Um, we used to call in our on-prem days, we used to call folders, right? I put this into folder. So S3 is basically a bucket, and inside the bucket you can have folders. They call it as prefix, suffix, all those things we are going to learn. I'm just giving a very high level. Elastic block storage, and those are virtual hard disk. We can attach to a virtual machine, like C drive, D drive, like different. We can add more storage into a virtual machine. Elastic file system where the files are stored, and FSX is another file storage service, and storage gateway is another. So these are all different storage services. As a solution architect, you need to pick what service is best and cost optimization. So that is what we are going to learn in this architecture. And as an architect, this is what you are supposed to do. But these are all the services available in storage. So database services are like relational database services, but under relational database, they provide you Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, PostgreSQL. So different kind of Oracle, like different relational database services are available. If you want to spin up an Oracle instance, it's so easy to do it in AWS. And if you're using it for 1 month, you just use it and shut it down. So you don't, they won't charge you. That is a model. The other one is DynamoDB. This is called a NoSQL, where you can store objects like videos, documents, all those things. So it's called NoSQL. And Redshift. Redshift is Amazon's data warehouse, database services. So it's very powerful. It can hold millions of terabytes of records, where it has a lot of parallel computing power. It can do a lot of things in Redshift, and we will do some examples or labs, after the course is done. Networking side, we will have some examples, or virtual private cloud. We will be learning more about it. And then there are some options called direct connect. If you want to have a direct connect to your on-prem data center, because sometimes you are not completely moved into cloud, but you want to work with your on-prem, you can just do a dedicated network between those systems. But it's more expensive. But as a data architect, you need to understand the requirement and then provision. Oh, there is a service available. Why don't you take use of it? And this is a use case. And a solution architect can say that, oh, as part of the well-structured architecture, oh, you can use this way. If you have certain needs, we can use this way. So you can advise them. Um, and a Route 53 is registering a domain. You want to register a DNS entry or some .com or some DNS entry you can create in Route 53. That's another service. And API gateway is another service. It's a serverless way to replacing web services where you have an API, you want to hook it up and 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 basically publish it. Um, yeah. And then it allow the API gateway is also allows you to create, publish, and manage APIs. And this is too much for you to understand now. But just after the class, for a couple of classes, come back and read through it. You will understand more about it. Okay. So now then some of the key. I'm just kind of wrapping up. Key services you should know about the exam. Just keep these words in your mind. If you talk about EC2, is it a computing service or a storage? EC2 is a compute service, right? Like S3 is a storage service, and then RDS is a database. So VPC is a networking service. So a lot of questions will come like that. So you just keep those words in your mind, like what is that corresponding to what services. I just put a white paper, so just read through, but not now. After after all the 6 weeks is over, 6 weeks are over, we will do a combine read through the white paper. So make sure that it will be a discussion topic, so we can learn it together. So most important, the exam, you need to go through well-architected framework, not now, after the classes are over, because a lot of things it will be Greek or Latin for you. So the 6 pillars of the well-architected, at least put this in your mind. These are the 6 pillars in well-architected framework. Operational excellence, security, reliability, performance, cost, sustainability. So just keep putting in your mind, the well-architected framework has these pillars, because some of the quiz, they will have that questions. So read through the white paper before the exam. And we also cover what a region, what a availability zone, what are edge locations, and then who owns what. That means what is your responsibility, what is AWS responsibility, what is your shared responsibility. Key services you should know is compute, storage, databases, and networking. So just go through it, read through the white paper. And I have a question. Finally, we are just conclude with this quiz. What category would that VPC service fall into? VPC is virtual private cloud. Yeah, anybody can answer. The first thing, it is not database, right? Because it's not related to database. Machine learning, we didn't even talk about it, right? Learn about it. So the question is either is a compute or networking. If somebody can answer, just go ahead.
Networking.
Yes, networking. Because virtual private cloud, right? You're creating a cloud using some networking services, right? Next one, why is security one of the pillar in the well-architected framework? Because security is something you only have to do every once in a while. That is totally wrong, right? Every once in a while, no. Security is your major things you need to worry about. Because AWS does it for all for you. You never have to worry about. Is that true?
No.
No. Because security is the highest priority in AWS. If you don't have the security, your customers won't trust you with your data.
Yes.
That is right. That is the answer, right?
Yeah.
The next one is, according to shared responsibility model, who is responsible for patching, updating, maintaining OS of EC2 instances in AWS? EC2 is a virtual machine. Just understand, EC2 is a virtual machine you created, right? You created that virtual machine. So that means you are responsible for it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's this question is little tricky. That EC2 is where you created something there, then how AWS knows it, right? So EC2, there is something there, but if they have a RDS, like a database, right? Like RDS and Oracle instance, it is their responsibility to patch it, not you. But EC2 is something you create a virtual machine, it's your responsibility. Which statement best describe a region? A network point of presence in a country, a virtual location around the world where you can create availability zones, a physical location around the world comprised of multiple isolated physical separate availability zones within a geographical area, the original location of the data center that you are going to migrate into AWS. And this is clearly said which answer to this question, like within the geographical area, right? That is the most catchy word, right? So that's the answer. The third is the answer. Just I have more questions like that. We just wanted to just finish up with this last two or more questions. Um, which statement best describes a region? Physical location. That's the same question. Repeated. So which of the following is not a pillar of AWS well architect framework? Cost, security, harmony, and reliability. You can
Harmony.
harmony, yeah. What is the category like VPC services fall into? We already talk about it, networking, right? Okay, which category would EC2 fall into?
Compute.
Compute.
Yes. According to shared responsibility model, who is responsible for patching, updating, maintaining? Oh, that's the same question. I asked the same question again. So which statement best describe the availability zone? Look for some word. I just told you that we need to catch those words.
The third one.
The third one, redundant networking connectivity, right? Yeah. So I think we covered that, and then I wanted to cover the next one, which is the the IAM, which is the user. You're creating security around it, identity management service. Since it's a Father's Day and the first day of class, I will keep it for the next class. But make sure you just go through this, and then I will keep posting a lot of questions, whatever we learn, and different ways of we can just practice more, keeping that word in your head, so we'll not forget it. So, and I'm going to this recording will be posted, and then and go through this. PowerPoint also is being posted into Google Classroom. Please go through it. And happy Father's Day for everyone. Anybody has any questions? I can answer now. Mani, you to conclude something? Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Somebody trying to ask some question.
Are the meetings every Sunday at the same time?
Yes, Sunday, and I will try to put a class in between, and if anybody can join, but otherwise I will post that video. You can, but I will try to find one more class in between. Otherwise, you will forget all the things we learn.
Yeah, there are a
Okay.
lot of content, so we need to finish it in 6 weeks. That's our plan. So
Yeah.
in May, if possible, it's good to attend the classes during weekdays also.
Yeah.
Okay.
1 hour. We'll keep it under 1 hour so that we won't go more than that. But I will post as much homework and quizzes where you can practice. And if it is going more than 6 months, whatever things we learn, it's going to go out of our brain. So I wanted to make it like within that 6 months, and we
6
may
weeks.
go a little faster, but that's the only way we can pass this exam.
Any questions, anybody?
Any suggestions or anything? I'm going so fast, or let me know.
I have one quick question regarding the regions that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So when we create our account, right, which regions do we select?
So the region, we can select which region you want to keep our account, but there are some services like we can have multiple regions, but certain things when we are doing it, it needs to be in the same region. For example, if you have a Lambda function, working with an S3 bucket, and if it is in multiple region, the performance will be affected. So there are some rules behind that. Some services can, some resources is better to do in one region, not in multiple region. But one account can have multiple regions in case of like we want redundancy. Like sometimes you have a disaster recovery in a different region, but your production is in one region, so you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the flexibility to create any service in different regions.
Different
Yeah.
regions. Yeah. But when you're getting the bill, you are getting for one account. But when you're setting up the IAM, which is the security, it is not for a region. It is for the entire account. Let's say you cannot create a security for one region, and you cannot create a security for a different security for another region. Like you cannot do that. That is for global. But other services, you can say, okay, which region you wanted to deploy and things like that. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, so you create the services in whichever
Yes.
region you think it is useful for you.
Yeah.
So if you have clients that most of your clients or everybody is in India, so it's better to create the resources there in Mumbai or something. So it will be easier, it will be low latency.
Low latency.
Yeah.
But at the same time, some contents need to be available in globally. You can just create the edge locations where the edge location is basically it caches it, right? So it caches whatever in the Northern Virginia, it will cache into different edge locations. So we can just configure some of the information connecting to that edge location. So you can do that as a solution architect. That is what they are supposed to, where the latency is coming, how you can improve cost and the speed and computing power, all those things considering.
Yeah, so even if let's say you're building a website and it is posted in Northern Virginia, now your users can be from anywhere. And in that case, it is better to move a lot of, I'm giving an example, but there are a lot of different ways. So move all the static contents to edge location and make it available everywhere.
Yeah,
that way.
It access every as soon as the image get updated, it will cache into those places immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. Have
Thank you,
a
Venkatesh.
wonderful weekend, everyone, and enjoy the Father's Day.
Yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy
Happy-
Father's Day.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, let me talk a couple of words. Okay, now before we closing. And so Venkatesh is doing it on his personal time, and this is a great job he's doing. And he's always helping robotics for youth and a lot of students. And he has done a lot of classes. And if you look at it, this type of classes are like hundreds of thousands of dollars outside. He's doing it free of cost. And okay, robotics for all youth also doing that. And make use of this and do your best. And you won't get this type of opportunities anywhere else, I would say. Yeah. Okay, so now in the AWS, just to give you a summary of what he did, it's all services. You're making use of different services provided by AWS. And it is cloud is like, it's just like a laptop or servers that you don't need to really put efforts to set up everything. That's what they are providing. Just as Venkatesh told, okay, it's like owning a car and renting a car. Okay. Work on focus on compute storage.
Yeah, once you
ahead,
learn this, it is easy to do Azure. Azure is another service provider. We can relate those service types to the Azure services. So it's basically, once you learn one and the other one is easy.
Yeah, it's all the same type of services, but they have different names. That's it. Okay. So compute, storage, database, and networking. Don't forget, those are the core things that you need to work on. Yeah. Okay, that's all from my side. Thanks, Venkatesh, one more time.
Thank you.
Venkatesh, one quick question. Is there any closed group where for the cloud folks where we can share knowledge?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you talking about this group of people attending the class?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who are interested, we can form a group, like any social media group that you want.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's the idea actually.
Okay.
The more collaboration, the more, yeah. I'm preparing some real world labs so you can try it yourself, and once you certify, you're ready for the job. So
Thank you so much.
all right. Next class we'll have more packed with more things. So ready for that. So just go through this one more time. All right. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.